And hello, everyone, and welcome back to our mini series. Well, it's part of our mini series of our larger series of Living Limitlessly. You know, as we continue talking about metabolism and that dysfunction that we see within our metabolism, there are so many things that come into play. We've talked about our physical health. We've talked about emotional health. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how our mental health has a direct impact on our metabolism. You didn't think so, did you? But if you follow the trend, if you follow what's been going on, you will find that a lot of what we experience, a lot of the dysfunction, the disordered metabolism that we see and we feel comes a lot from the burden that we have in our mental health space. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about how do we understand mental health, how do we gain clarity and resilience, and how do we set ourselves up for success as it relates to our metabolism. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who want to get off of medications, and who want to improve their health. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level, creating the life you've always wanted. And in our series, Limitless Living, Limitless Living says, there's nothing that's outside of me, no relationship, no thought, no situation, or nothing inside of me, no bad feelings, no depression, no anxiety, no memories that are going to prevent me from doing what I need to do to be metabolically healthy and reverse my diabetes. Go ahead and put new in the comments if you are new to our show, if you're new to our community, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that I am excited that you are here. If you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, in the comments, and make sure you put a Q in front of those, because I would love to welcome you and get to those as we move throughout the show tonight. It's been an amazing series so far as we've walked down the path of metabolism and seeing the benefits that we're getting as we think about how our physical health and our emotional health impacts our metabolism. And tonight, of course, we'll be talking about how the mental health affects that as well. You guys know how we do. I've got off to my side my glucose meters, and I've got my clarity report that's right below me. So let's go ahead and, so we've got that sitting right, let's see, this one right here. We got that sitting right next to me. And let's go ahead and change this. Ooh, there we are. Right, so got my monitors right here, and then right below me is my Dexcom clarity report, and we'll take a look at what's been going on with blood sugars as we get into our show. I do see some community members, so we'll say hi to them in just a minute. And so let's kind of give a little backdrop, and let's talk about where we are, where we're heading, and why we're doing the things that we are doing. So diabetes is one of those devastating diseases. I was talking to someone in the office just today, talking about the amazing burden that comes from diabetes and the metabolic diseases that are associated with it. And also talking about how it is that we have, I shouldn't say for some reason, that we have really relegated diabetes to a personal, that's your problem. Okay. When we use the phrase lifestyle disease, that's typically what we mean. We say, okay, it's a lifestyle issue. You go off, you take care of it. If you do a good job of managing, then we don't have these issues. But there are so many other things that that are involved. And you, if you've been following us, you understand, you know that our thought and the premise that we're using is that there are so many different things that intertwine. We've talked about the domains, and we've been kind of walking through the domains. When we did our limitless living inventory, we walked through what those domains are. They are our physical, our spiritual, our emotional, our environmental, occupational, intellectual, mental, and social health. So all of those domains will play a part in your mental health, they will play a part in your metabolism, and ultimately they will play a part in your disease process. So as we are walking through the mental health concept tonight and talking about the show tonight, I want you to remember that they are intertwined. This is a wheel, right? It is a wheel that we are working on, that we are rolling on. This wheel, if the wheel is symmetrical, if things are ordered on the wheel, then the wheel takes us in a orderly and a calm and a smooth fashion. But if there are aspects of the wheel, those domains that we talk about, that are not doing well, then there are these jagged places, these big humps in our wheel, in our domains. And so our ride through life becomes very disordered and it becomes very rough, and that has impact on our metabolism. So as we're talking about where we are going and how we're getting there, what we're doing is we're in the process of looking at that limitless inventory and saying, what are the areas in my life, what are the domains, if you will, that I need to be looking at, and how do I make those as good as possible? How do I improve them? How do I supercharge them so that my wheel is working well and it's smooth, and so my metabolism, my health, my journey to success is better, and it's something that I can do continuously. Does that make sense? So that is the function. That is the idea that we're working on. This is that mini series that we're talking about, the domains of our health, and walking through that process. We introduced the limitless living inventory several weeks ago. Go back and watch that show so that you begin understanding how we go about grading and how we go about looking at these various aspects of our health. Because if we can deal with those, as Limitless Living says, right? Because remember, nothing from outside, nothing from inside is going to prevent us from doing what we need to do to be healthy. If we can address them, then it helps our metabolism become more ordered. And if we can fix the metabolism, if we can right the metabolism, if we can bring the metabolism back into balance, then those chronic diseases that we talk about, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fatty liver, and of course, metabolic dysfunction, all of those begin to improve. You got it? Okay, so we're working on our domains of health, and tonight we're spending time talking about our mental health. All right, so let's hop over and let's see. I do see some of our community members out there, so let's hop over and let's say hello. Let's say hello to you. Let's see who we have out there. Here we are. So I see Gian. So Teresa was the first one who popped in, and Teresa is saying hello. So, hey, doctor and everyone. Hi, Teresa. Thank you for coming through. Gian says, hi, Wood Gang. Hey, Wood Gang, how are you guys doing? Gian says, hi, doctor. Pamela White says hello. And Pamela, I did see you. Actually, I saw you and Gian when I did my live earlier today, as I was going about doing one of our episodes for our 100-day walk to consistency, which I'll make a plug for here in just a minute. And then, of course, Lightworks. Hey, man. Thanks for coming through. Glad to see you. Haven't seen you in a little bit, so glad that you are here in this space hanging out with us. And, of course, Gian says, hello, Light. And Bowie says, good evening. And, of course, Gian is saying hello. Hi, Bowie. So good place for me to do a pause and say, as we are talking about metabolism, there are a lot of tools that we are using, right? One of the tools that we've been using is fasting. And so we do our show on a weekly basis where we come on and we fast. And if you come back later this week, we'll do our first show in this week's fast on Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, okay? So that's one of the tools that we're using. The other tool that we are using is we are using activity, physical activity. That's getting out and doing, working, moving the body. Remember when we talked about the physical, the body is the thing that carries us through life. And as we are trying to right the metabolism, one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do physically so that we keep the body healthy. So when we talk about righting metabolism, improving metabolic disease, improving insulin resistance, decreasing weight, dealing with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and all those things, remember there are several things that we can do that push us in that direction. Part of it is fasting, one of the tools. Another tool is activity, moving. And so every morning at 6 o'clock, we've been doing our 100-day walk to consistency. If you've not been following us, go ahead and do that. We are on day number 55, I believe, today. Yeah, 55 today. All of those are on the channel, and as you're walking, we're learning, we're moving, and we're doing some teaching there, so that you can not only learn about your physical health, but you're also learning about how to be consistent. And I'm just making a change here to one of my monitors. There we go. So being consistent. So you are learning and you are making strides. So those are out there on the channel right now. Like I said, we are on day 55. They're there. I've also created. I've broken it up into weeks. Right. So there's a playlist for week number 1, a playlist for week number 2, a playlist for week number 3. Let's see, and you'll kind of see those. You'll see those all there, right? So week 1 was laying the foundation. Week 2 is building momentum. Week 3 is mastering our mindset, and so on and so forth. So they're there, and they are an amazing way, like I said, for us to use another tool that is amazing in the process of righting metabolism, because that is what we want to do. We want to improve our metabolic disease. If we can do that, if we can right our metabolism, then those diseases that we talk about, they all go away. They all get improved. And we get to do that, right? You want to hear it? You ready? We get to do that with as minimal medication as possible. That should excite you. That should excite you. All right. So let's go back and let's see. Let's take a look at my blood sugars. And here we are. So right now, according to the Libre, my blood sugar is 103. And you'll see right here somewhere. Okay, where am I pointing? Can you see that? Yeah, right there. Right. So that squiggly white line, that's my blood sugar for today. And you'll see earlier today around 9 or so, it was up at right around 150. And we'll see a better number in a minute when I get to the Dexcom, because I can actually show you the numbers. And then, of course, coming down as I went through the day. Now, right before I went live, I had a couple of slices of cheese. I had some jerk chicken, right? So that was my meal for today. Was the first meal that I had for today. So that's what I had. And so we should see, we should see as the show goes on, you'll see an uptick in my blood sugar. Hopefully it's not going to be a big spike, because I think, as I mentioned before, when I got sick in December, my blood sugars have been 30 to 40 points higher than they were before. And so I think finally I'm getting a handle of that, and the blood sugars are better. So anyway, enough said about that. So let's get rid of this one, and let's take a look here. So yeah, so right here, right, so according to the Libre, so I'm 132, so it's 30 points higher than what according to the Dexcom. So it's 30 points higher than what the Libre says. So if I kind of scroll back through the day, you'll see I've been kind of hanging out in the 110s, and then right before lunch, I was like 150, 160. And right here I had to change my device because it ended. So that's why there's a gap, not a big gap, between 9 a.m. or 8:55 and 10. So that was when I finally was like, oh yeah, I got to change it. And so I went to my office and changed that. Okay, and then you'll see the blood sugars coming down. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at my meters. So here's my contour. Here's my Keto Mojo. And let's go ahead and grab some strips. And this is the strip for the contour. Let's get that out. I'm not going to put it in there quite yet because, yeah, let's get that there. And then, of course, for my, for the Keto Mojo, let's grab, this is a strip for ketones, and then this is the strip for glucose. So we're going to take a look at those. And then while I'm in here, I might as well just go ahead and grab a lancet. Right, so these are the lancets that I have. I do have this one, but as you know, I don't like, well, I shouldn't say I don't like it. I love it because it is simple and easy, but the spring is not strong enough to kind of push the lancet through my thick finger. Or the skin over my fingertips, I've used them so much that they become kind of calloused and hard. And so if I want to get a good stick with this, I actually have to use a different finger, and this one I don't usually use, so I don't want to, because it hurts, and because I've used these so much, they don't hurt that much anymore. All right, so I'm not gonna use this lancet. I'm gonna go ahead and use this one. All right, so let's go ahead and open these. So this is the glucose. We'll put that one up here. Let's get this one back. Come on. All right, and then, well, it jumped over here. And then let's go ahead and open the ketones. So what do you think my ketones are going to be? All right, you see what my blood sugars are right now. What do you think ketones are going to be? I'm not fasting, by the way. All right. As I said, I ate last night, so I didn't eat anything today. So I guess technically that was a fast. But it wasn't, that was not intentional. So I'm not like, okay, I'm fasting today, so I'm not eating. It just happens that I didn't eat anything. All right, so let's go ahead and let's grab this open. And I need to get a good stick and ow. Okay, I think that should give me a good, yeah, there you go. All right, let's get that one started. And go ahead and get this one going. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and keep milking this so I can get my drop of blood. And you'll see there, let's see, let's do this one. Okay, so 107 for the contour, 125 for the Keto Mojo, and then right there you'll see the Libre says it's 103. So let's go ahead and get this out, get this started, and this is the ketone, so the ketone. And I do have a drop of blood still left, so let's go ahead and get that in before it dries. Because if it dries, then I have to stick myself again, which I do not want to do. All right, so I'm not going to show you what that is, so you guys are going to put a guess in there. Like I said, I'm not fasting. I did eat just one meal today, so and I've been eating all weekend. So, all right, here we go. All right, so let's hop over and let's have our conversation. So well, before I do that, let me back up and let's take a look. I think we do have some other folks that came through. Oh, and I see some, okay, well, look at that. Oh, okay, so, okay. So Bowie said hi. Hello, the Lightworks. Lightworks says hello. And I see, hey, Doc, love your shirt. I want one. Hey. I got the shirts, and so, hey, Ashley McHenry, and oh, look at the little picture. Okay, I got to do my show. Okay, you got to get off. You got to get her off because you're going to distract me. Look at the little cutie. Do you guys see that? You probably can't. Boy, she said, I've been lazy to walk in the cold, but I look forward to walking tomorrow on a warm morning finally. Okay, yeah, so I think you're near us, and so we have similar weather. I think you're just northeast of us, Bowie, if I remember correctly. Cornelia says hello. Bowie says, I want to say I appreciate these videos. The mix of good science and thoughtful attention to emotions is rare for other fasting channels. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for that. And then Gian says hello. Say hi, Cornelia. Bowie says hi, Cornelia. Ashley said, Ella says, hey, Doc. Oh, that's my little girl right there, y'all. And Gian says she thinks ketones are going to be 0.2. Lightwork says 0.2. Steve, what's up, Steve? Hey, man, I didn't see you in there. So thanks for coming through. Steve says 0.3. And then Teresa says 0.1. Okay, so I'm gonna go go ahead and star those. 1, 2, 3. We got 4 guesses. All right. Okay. All right. So here we are. Let's have our conversation. So we are talking about disordered metabolism. Let's kind of back up and put that as our premise, right? Disordered metabolism is the place. It is the thing that causes our metabolic dysfunction or causes our chronic diseases. Whether we're talking about the blood sugar, pre-diabetes, we're talking about obesity, we're talking about cholesterol, liver. So all of those are spectrums along a part of the spectrum along the disease called metabolic diseases. Okay? So if we could find a way to manage any one of those, then those same principles can be expanded, extrapolated to other diseases in the process. Okay? And so what we are on the journey of is laying the foundation for the things that we need to do that will affect all of our metabolic diseases. Here specifically, as we talk, we're talking about diabetes, right? Type 2 diabetes. How do we reverse type 2 diabetes in adults? But those same principles can be expanded, extrapolated to all of the disease processes, which is why in our community, you'll see people who are diabetic, who are walking through the journey. You'll see people who don't have diabetes, who are metabolic, right? Who have metabolic disease. They may have high blood pressure or high cholesterol. They may be suffering from weight management issues. Okay? And they're in this process. There are also people who don't have those specific metabolic diseases, but are using the concepts that we're using in order to gain control, finally, of their eating behavior. I want you to listen, right? Because all of those, the sum, the bottom line, the common denominators are the same. So when we talk about the domains of health, the domains of health cross all barriers. They cross all disease processes. On our 100-day walk to consistency, that we started that walk, the concept with the definition of what's called a keystone principle. A keystone principle. And a keystone, back in the days when they used to build cities and walls, right? So there were these openings within the wall, right? That's where you walk through, kind of a gate. And when they built the gate, you got the posts on either side, and then there's an arch sometimes that goes over the top. And if you look at them, a lot of those were not built with cement and mortar and those types of things. All they did was they had the columns and they had the pieces of stone set in such a way so that when they came together, it was like a jigsaw puzzle, and they all held each other upright. And the main stone that was the lock that held everything together was called the keystone. So it is the thing that everything else is built on. It is the thing that allows all the other components to work together to accomplish what they wanted, which was to create a gate, create a doorway, create an entrance. And so in our concept, as we're talking, a keystone principle is that thing on which all the other concepts rest. And a keystone principle is the idea of disordered metabolism. Right? So as we've been talking about our metabolic disease and how we improve metabolism, we've gone through what's called our domains of health. And the domains of health are saying, okay, if we fix these domains, think of this as a wheel, like a wheel on a car, and a wheel on the bus, right? You guys want to hear me sing? Yeah, I'm not. So the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Wheels on the bus go round and round all through the day or night, right? So the wheels on the bus is going round and round and round. And you can imagine that wheel, if the wheel is smooth and the bus is rolling, then the ride is very smooth. Then your metabolism is working and everything is in alignment. But if for some reason there's a chunk on that wheel, on that tire, there's a bleb on the tire, right? There's a hole on the tire. Part of the tire is flat. When it go ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk. So that's not a very smooth ride, not very comfortable. And so when we talk about the domains of health, what we're saying is how do we address each of the domains so that our wheel on the bus, when it goes round and round, it is a smooth, comfortable ride through our lives. And applying that to our metabolism, if we can write the domains in the Limitless Living inventory, if we can write them, then now our metabolism gets back into balance. And so we've spent time talking about the physical domain. We talked about the emotional domain. Tonight, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the mental domain and talking about mental health. Okay? And mental health has been kind of the stepchild of the medical community, because everybody talks about blood pressure and cholesterol, and everybody talks about a lot of those other physical things that are involved with our health, but the mental part of it, right? I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people do not want to address it because they see it as a failure. They see addressing mental health as a failure. In fact, in my office, one of the things that I talk to people about is when we are having difficulty with their blood sugar, with their diabetes, with whatever illness we're dealing with. When we are focused on the disease process, right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we've got to improve the metabolism. There's often times when I say to someone, we can't get your blood sugars better until you go into counseling. I want you to hear me. We can't improve your blood sugar if we don't get you into counseling, because in counseling, then we begin dealing with the mental aspect of what's causing the issue. So mental health is the foundation for our cognitive function and our psychological well-being. It not only shapes the way we think, but also it influences every decision we make. I want you to think about that. Every decision that you make is in part, I shouldn't say in part, is regulated by your mental health. Your perspective on things, how you see the world, your worldview impacts how you behave. It impacts what judgments you make. It impacts what you eat. When our mental health is strong, we can process information more clearly. We approach problems with creativity, and we manage stress in a way that prevents it from overwhelming us. But when mental health is not there, when we are struggling in our mental health, whatever the reason may be, right? And we'll come and we'll talk about some of that here in a minute. When we struggle with our mental health, it has a direct impact on how our disease process goes. Now, here's an extreme case. So I have I had a patient who used to see me, and I think they've moved away now, who was struggling with blood sugar, right? Getting blood sugars under control, so diabetes. And so we played and we toyed and we tried this and we tried that and we tried the other thing and we tried this. And as we were evaluating, I finally said, well, wait a minute, something is not clicking. right? Because if we're doing these things, right, and we're doing medication, we had gone to diabetes education, we're talking about the food and the things you're eating and balanced bites and all of those, but we still were not getting control of the blood sugar. And so we sat down and said, hey, okay, so tell me what's going on. And it turned out that there was depression there. And so the depression dysregulated everything. So because there was this depression, there was not a thought about, okay, what do I eat? It wasn't like I'm deliberately going out and eating something. There was not a conscious decision on what to eat, on how to eat healthily. And because there was this depression, there was a negative outlook on life, a negative outlook on the world. Because there was a negative outlook on the world, there was no reason to want to have regulated metabolism. So it wasn't that that he was deliberately doing something, but it was just an apathy that said, whatever. Disordered mentation. A resilient mind is essential for our journey to achieve metabolic health. When you have a clear and balanced mental state, you're better able to navigate, to maintain your health goals. You're better able to problem solve. You have creativity. You can think outside the box. There's not such of a struggle to maintain order in your life because life is good. I tell my folks in my office often that I want you to have like the best life outside of the office. Like I want your life to be like nirvana. I don't actually say nirvana, but you get the idea. I want life outside of the office to be the best it can be. Because when you show up in the office, I get the overflow. When you come to the office and things are good at home, financially you're good, you have a relationship with your husband and your wife and your brother and your sister and mom and dad, when that's good, when you feel fulfilled in your life, when you show up with a pep in your step, you show up with joy, you show up with a smile. But if things out there are bad, do you imagine how you show up at the office? So our mental health has a direct impact on our ability to be successful. When we talk about metabolism, we mentioned that our body, our physical body, is what takes us through our life. And so our goal is to help the body to be as resilient, be as optimized as possible. Well, if the body is the thing that drives us, then mental health is the thing that begins to steer us. A calm mind reduces the production of stress hormones. A calm mind reduces the production of stress hormones like cortisol, epinephrine. But if the mind is disordered, then those stress hormones are high. And we've already talked about what stress hormones do. Those contribute to insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia, and we know that once insulin comes out, once insulin starts, we're off to the races because insulin is the key thing that causes the dysfunction in our metabolism. It is what disrupts our metabolism. So it's essential to nurture our mind to help us decrease those ripple effects downstream. So a sound mind not only empowers you to make better decisions, to make better choices and adapt to challenges, but it also directly supports your physical health. It is possible to develop physical illness because of disordered thinking, disordered interactions, challenges that can't be managed properly. There's this thing called dissociative fugue, which is where someone has and you probably see they enhance it and they super, they make it a big deal in the movies. So, John, for lack of a better name, I'm going to just pick John. So John disappears from his life. And he shows up in California. And one day, so he's supposed to be living in New York, he's in California. And one day, somebody from New York, which is where he's supposed to be, where he lives, that's where his life is, that's where his family is, that's right. He shows up in California. And somebody from New York is out there doing something, maybe they're visiting, and they happen to see him. And they say, John, I didn't know you were out here. Well, John sees them, and John doesn't even know them. He doesn't remember them. But somehow that interaction triggers a thought, triggers some memory, and the memory comes flooding back. And it turns out that John was living his life like he normally does, and he had a break. He had a stress-induced, trauma-induced mental break. And his mind says to him, the easiest way for us to deal with this is to just leave everything, forget everything that was there, and move on to something else. And John shows up in California. A manifestation, a true, real this is not fairy tale. This is not John is dreaming, but John really doesn't remember. And this all comes because of disordered mentation, disordered thought process. So our goal is to understand how mental health works, to build some resilience and some structure, and to clarify and bring focus. Okay? Think of your mind as a controller. This is the control center. Like I mentioned, the car, the body, that's the organism, that's the machine that is doing the walking and the moving and the driving. It is the thing that's carrying us through. And the brain, the mind, the mental aspect of ourselves is what is doing the direction. It is turning right and turning left, and it's pausing and it's halting and it's stopping and it's right, and it's weaving through life. It is the mind that does that. When it's clear and is resilient, everything functions better. Remember, the emotions impact how everything works, but the mind is the thing that directs everything. So how does the mind work? How does the mind work? And the first thing we want to do is we want to think about our mental landscape. What does that mean? Well, let's explore our mind for a minute. So our mind is make up our mentation, our thought processes, our dreams, the way we think. It's made up of a rich, dynamic milieu, if you will. It's a space that's shaped by your thoughts, your beliefs, your family of origin, your experiences, your failures, your successes, the interpretation that you have put on events that happen, as we talked about last week in our episode. Right? So nothing that happens to you has a meaning on, or has an impact on you until you put a meaning to it. And once you get a meaning, then you develop an emotion about it. So all those things come together to create what we term our mind. And so our mind is our way of viewing things. It is the it is the combination of all of those things that have happened to us so far. So these elements, they serve as the lens through which we interpret everything. The brain is always getting these signals that are coming at it, thousands of signals each minute, each day. And the brain can't manage all of those. I know we think we can, but it can't manage all of those. So what it does is it begins looking for patterns. Okay, these things seem to be together, so I'm gonna put those in a group. These things look like they put those in a group, right? And so it begins creating patterns throughout our lives and throughout all the signals that are coming. And when it does that, it is doing it based on your experience. So, hey, I had this bad experience over here. So anything that comes to me from that area, we dump it into bad experiences. Anytime we see that particular person, we dump it into bad experiences. When we see this person, we dump it into an experience that we've had. And so we have these loops that happen all the time. Have you ever considered that there are certain things that happen to you and it seems like they always happen? Now here's a bad example. Well, I'm not going to say bad. This is an example. Okay? It's an example. So you have an experience with a man, a woman, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, friend. And it seems like every person that you get with, every person that you encounter in a romantic relationship, you end up in the same kind of discussions, same kind of arguments, same kind of situations. Why is that? That happens because of the mind. Because our mind seeks out the things that are familiar. Even, I want to listen to this. Even when there are things that are harmful to us, because they are familiar to us, our mind, our brain will direct us to that thing. I want you to listen. Even though something can be harmful because it is familiar, it is actually comfortable being in that space. And our brain will say, hey, we're going to go there because we know that. So when we're talking about our mind, having a better understanding of it, having a level mind, a mind that is clear and functional, and recognizing those patterns and understanding what's going on is very, very important. Okay? So here are a couple of key points that I want you to get, right? So I want you to write these down. So there's this concept called cognitive patterns, right? Cognitive patterns. So what you want to do is you want to begin looking at and paying close attention to your inner dialogue. Inner dialogue. Notice if you frequently engage in the same kind of self-talk. This is not about anybody else. This is not about out there. This is not about what people are telling you. I'm talking about in here. And there's a concept of ourselves that we all have. And often the concept of ourselves that we have is negative, and it's built on a history of hurts. It's built on a history of failures. It's built on a history of trauma. It's built on a history of negativism from other people. So when I was in sixth grade, my teacher pulled me aside, and we were doing basketball or football or something. I was in sixth grade, and he said to me, Dwain, I think you need to start wearing deodorant. Sixth grade. Makes sense, right? So I'm a growing guy. And he pulled me aside and said that. Now, his intentions were good, right? Because he was like, man, you smell funky, right? Whatever. I mean, he didn't say those words, but that was here was an adult who had noticed something, and he was stepping in and doing what he thought was good, and said that to me. Okay. Now, as a sixth grader. How old were you in sixth grade, right? So I took that thing, and that thing got into my head. And man, I started wearing deodorant all the time. I mean, I'm going to bed, I'm wearing deodorant. I'm showering with deodorant. I got deodorant in my backpack, got deodorant in my pocket, all deodorant. Okay? So I get married. And my wife says to me, hey, how come you wear deodorant when you go to bed? Now, I want you to notice what happened. I'm talking sixth grade, y'all. And as a grown man, all of 24 4 years old. That thing followed me. So our interpretation of the world affects how we behave. And so we always want to be looking for those patterns. Is there a recurrent pattern, the cognitive pattern that we have in our mind? Ask ourselves, is this thought really true? Is it helping me move forward, or is it holding me back? Right? So that's where the rubber meets the road. The cognitive pattern, is it helping me or is it hurting me? Because if it's hurting me, you know what it does? It makes me feel depressed. It makes me feel anxious. It causes me to pull away. It causes me not to be able to develop relationships. It causes me not to think properly. It causes me to make choices that are not the best for my metabolism. And we're always going back to metabolism. So how does that affect the metabolism? How do you think it affects the metabolism? If I'm always stressed, right, hormones are up, cortisol is up. If cortisol is up, then cortisol is causing high blood sugar. If high blood sugar is happening, and when I say high blood sugar, higher than normal. So it doesn't have to be that you're diabetic. Higher than normal. In order for your blood sugar to stay normal, if you're not diabetic, or even if you are diabetic, the body has to produce insulin. Once again, as soon as insulin comes out, then all the downstream things happen. And so the cognitive pattern that we have is important because it is the view that we have of ourselves. And that view creates dysregulation if we're not careful. And then mental overload. In today's fast-paced world, our minds are constantly bombarded with information, right? Notifications, there's endless distractions, there's an email, there's a phone call, there's the text, there's the device that, there's the app that alerts you when whatever is happening, whatever you subscribe to. So we're always having these things happening. And in order to function, in order to be in a space where we can function normally, the brain ignores a lot of things. It says, there's just so much coming, I can't even deal with that. And so we miss a lot of life that's happening. We miss a lot of the good things that are happening in life. And so we end up going through life, and we're kind of navigating this narrow piece of our world because we've tuned out all the other things that are coming. And so our brain doesn't have the capacity to really engage with what we need to do. So by reducing the noise, reducing the clutter, reducing the clamor in our mental space, we clarify, we reduce, we simplify, and we eventually are empowering ourselves to make good thoughts because now we have the mental capacity to deal with those. In my episode today, I was talking about doing a brain dump. And a brain dump is simply where you take the stuff that's in your head, you write it down, and you put it there. Once the brain says, hey, it's on a piece of paper, I don't have to remember it anymore. I don't have to keep going over it and over and over and over it. So this place right here, this mental junk box, this mental overload is important because when we are in that space, we are not free to experience things like we should experience things. One of the things that we talk about often is mindset, being mindful. And being mindful means I'm here, I'm present, I'm in this space right now, and I'm doing all the things I need to do in this space. And I'm feeling everything. I'm feeling the pain, I'm feeling the excitement, I'm feeling the laughter, I'm feeling the sadness. I've got a range of emotions. So how do we build resilience, and how do we enhance our clarity in our lives so that our metabolism gets better? Right? So now that you understand what part the mental landscape plays in our lives, what do we need to do? And the first thing is what I just mentioned. We want to be mindful. We want to practice mindfulness. We may need to do meditation, right? So these practices, they help to quiet the mental chatter, allowing us to woosah. And our prefrontal cortex has the ability to now superimpose itself on the amygdala. Remember that relationship? Amygdala being the primitive brain that is always there and always ready to fight. It's the survival part of our brain that's keeping us amped up, that's keeping the cortisol levels high. And the prefrontal cortex gets to come in and it gets to calm it because we've been mindful. We're calming ourselves. We're practicing. So the rational part of our brain gets to say, hold on, let me direct you. Remember, the mind is what's steering you, where the rational part of the brain gets to say, okay, let me be in charge. Let me help direct you. Let me help you make those decisions. Otherwise, the other guy is just reacting, right? It's just all over the place. And that leads to disordered metabolism. Cognitive restructuring is the second thing. So mindfulness, cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring says that I'm challenging and I'm reframing negative thoughts. Remember that conversation, that inner conversation that I was talking about? When we think about ourselves, those cognitive patterns that we think, that cognitive idea that we have about ourselves. And when I think about the cognitive pattern, what I think about is I think about, there was a movie, and I can't remember the movie right now, but it was a movie where there was I think it was a glass or a crystal version of ourselves that they kept in a cabinet or something. And so as long as the crystal was good, right, then they were good. And so we've created these little crystalline models. And sometimes it's not crystal. It's, we've got all kinds of things hanging off of it. But what we want to do is we want to begin challenging that crystal pattern that we've created. When you catch yourself in a cycle of doubt, when you catch yourself in a cycle of negativism, when you catch yourself in a cycle of the negative thought, the question you want to ask yourself is there another way for me to view this? Is there another way for me to think about this? Is this really true? Because I'm challenging that now. And so I'm restructuring this cognitive pattern that I have, because when I can do that, I change my outlook to the world. And when I change my outlook to the world, my interaction with the world is different. When my interaction with the world is different, then the way I deal with issues in the world is different. The next is digital detox. Right, so everything is on. Where's my thing? Yeah, here's my phone. Right, this device is a. I watch. Was it Monk? And Monk has these uncanny abilities, and one of the things that he always says, it's a blessing and it's a curse. So the blessing for these devices is that we are much more connected, theoretically. We have much more access to data. We have much more access to knowledge. We have much more access to culture and music and literature and all those things. But we also have access to things that are not necessarily the best for us. We get to see the highlight reels for people that are on social media. We get to see the best version of themselves, the prettiest, the handsomest, the best clothes, the most expensive cars and houses, and the most successful people. And we compare ourselves to those people. And when you compare yourself to those people, guess what? A lot of times we come up short. It's the same thing. Like you get a magazine, right? And in the magazine, you see a model, or you see a model. I shouldn't say. I'm going to say all you see. And you see a model, and she looks great. He looks great, and the eyes are just so, and the lips are just open just a little bit, and the guy is standing with a hand in his pocket, right? And the clothes are laying just so, and the colors are perfect. And I'm like, man, why don't I look like that? Well, you know why you don't look like that? Because when they were shooting that video, when they were shooting that picture, you know what they did? They had lights. And that softness, that little softness on the skin, they've got a spray bottle that they sprayed some water. And they got a makeup artist that came in and just dabbed just a little bit. And when the guy stood, right, there's a stylist that comes over and takes the jacket and lays it just so over his arm. Now, if I had all of that, guess what? I would look great. But we don't see the regular people. We don't see the real. That's not the highlight reel. So digital detox is another way that we become resilient and we enhance our clarity. Right? We're talking about focus. We're talking about clarity. We're talking about disordered metabolism. And what are the things in our mental aspect, mental life, mental health that we need to address? And of course, physical activity. One of the reasons for a 100-day walk to consistency that we're doing in the morning is that it helps with improved insulin resistance, with weight, with high cholesterol, with high blood pressure. But the other reason is that when we move, physical activity, when we move a muscle, we change our thoughts. Move a muscle, change a thought. It is a concept that's taught in recovery. If you're sitting and you're getting a craving, you're getting the call of whatever that substance is or whatever your drug of choice is, move. Get up and move. Go outside. Walk around. Stand up if you're sitting. Sit down if you're standing. Lean out the window. Do something that is physical. And if you physically move, you change a thought. Have you ever realized that the way you sit, the posture that you're in, how your hands are clenched, how your jaw is clenched, how your shoulders are hunched, all of that has an effect on your mind and on your brain? So change, and that gets to improve, okay? And then sleep optimization, right? Quality sleep is essential for cognitive function. Last night I was here in the studio and I was doing something and I wanted to stay up and I said, okay, I'm going to grab my bass, and I grabbed my bass and I started playing it, and I'm not sure how long afterwards I woke up, and I was videoing it, and I played back the video and I saw myself just, right, I got the bass, but I'm hunched over. So prioritizing sleep is very important. Each of the principles, each of these practices not only helps you improve your mental clarity, but they also build resilience. They enable you to bounce back, to quickly think of solutions, to be able to maintain your growth mindset. And the thing that is important is when we can do that, then our mind gets to direct us in a positive way, and we don't have to buffer. You know, that word is coming, right? We don't have to buffer like we're doing right now. And when we're not buffering, then we can live life at its fullest. And we can do the things we need to do to have better metabolism. Okay? So now let's put these things into practice, right? So I want to challenge you to pick one of the techniques that we talked about. Whether it's starting a mindfulness practice, whether it is rethinking, reshaping, redirecting your thought process, doing a digital detox. One of the things that I didn't talk about is journaling. Journaling, very important, right? So remember, we get all that stuff out of our head onto the journal. That's another way that we can use to be able to write our thought process and help our mind. And then share that in the comments. Share that in the community. Let us know what it is that you are going to be using to be able to do that. Our mental health. Our mental health is very important. Remember that a clear, resilient mind is the control center for all other aspects of our lives. So when we're thinking about the domains, by taking deliberate action, by taking deliberate steps to understand and improve what we're doing, our mental landscape, you lay the foundations to improve physical, emotional, mental, social, your overall well-being. All of that happens if we can write the controller. The controller, very important in what we do. Okay? All right. So that is, once again, right, all of these aspects are intertwined. Our physical, our emotional, our mental, as we talked about, our social aspect, all of these domains fall in line with what happens, what we are trying to write. If we can deal with each of the domains and help them to function well and help them to be smooth, then the dysfunction that we see in our metabolism gets improved. Okay? All right. So let's hop over and let's say, I think I saw, let's go back up. So those were some guesses. Lightwork said, I found with last couple of Dexcom G7, I've had to do multiple calibrations with using the glucose meter to get the number in line. They were off by 30 to 40 points. Good point. Good point there, Lightworks. I tend not to do a calibration. One of the reasons for that is that since I have two, I mean, for me, it's just a sense of, knowing where I am. I'm not necessarily looking for the exact number. So Jay Lamson said, hey, Dr. Wood, hello, everyone. Hey, Jay, how are you doing? Let's give a hand clap and some music. And Bowie says, hey, Jay. Hi, Jay. Teresa says she's getting ready to go. Better after the show. Good night, Teresa. Teresa says, hey, doctor. That's right. Isn't that interesting? I was talking about sleep right at the time when you said, hey, I'm getting ready to get out of here. Night, Pam. Teresa says, I beat you to it. I'm already in bed. Going to close eyes as soon as this is over. And Teresa says, Lightworks night. Yeah. Oh, let me do this. Before we go, I want to make sure that we look at my glucose meter and what do you think my ketones are going to be? So let's go ahead and let's grab this guy. All right. And let's get this started. And let's go ahead and get this synced. So what do you think it's going to be? I had a 0.1, I had a 0.2, 0.3. I don't think anybody said 0.4. Yeah, so I had 0.1, 0.2, 0.2, 0.3. All right, so let's go ahead and that's scanning and syncing, hopefully. So it doesn't look like it's acting right. Let me get out of that and come back in. And go ahead and sync again. There we go. All right. All right, so here we go. Drum roll. Drum roll, please. And ketones are 0.3. So let's see who said 0.3. So Steve, look at that. Steve is right on the ball. It says 0.3. So blood sugar is 125, according to the Keto Mojo. Ketones are 0.3. Remember, ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And we're always wanting, if we're talking about metabolism and being in ketosis, we want 0.5 or higher. Right, 0.5 or higher. Now, one point that I wanted to make that is that some people have asked me about the Keto Mojo meter. The Keto Mojo is only one type of meter that does ketones. Steve, I think, has a different version, different one. There are several on the market. I just happen to use this one because one of the people I follow was following uses it, and it gives me a good reading. It was relatively inexpensive, and so that's the reason I use this one. So any of the ones that you have that you can get, if they depending on the cost, should work for you. I tend not to use ketone strips, and I tend not to use the breath ketones, because the ketone strips, the ketones take longer to show up and they take longer to go away. So I could be in ketosis and on the strip it'll say I'm not, or I can be out of ketosis and the strip will say I'm still in ketosis. Okay. Oh yeah, and Steve says, let me pop that up for you, Steve. Thank you for putting that in. So Steve says that he uses the Keto BM from Walmart. Okay. So like I said, there are lots of different ones that are out there. All right. So let's see. Let's go here. So everything that we do, remember, is built on our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. The education comes in the form of what we're doing, the shows, the blogs, the podcasts, as we walk along the process of the limitless living. Limitless living said that we are addressing those things. And so the education gives us a different perspective, gives us a different way of looking at things, helps us understand generally what's going on in our body. We educate, we empower with the tools that we learn. Fasting, 100-day walk to consistency, balanced bites, how do we create a menu, mindfulness. All of those are tools that we're learning on our journey to regulating our metabolism and reversing our diabetes. And then we empower with the encouragement, we encourage with the community that you are part of, the community that you are helping to build. Now, my one ask is this: when you show up, I want you to work on the challenges. The things that we do, the theory is great, but it does not take effect until you infuse it with your action, and that's what gives it power. Let me say that again. Watching the videos, I love the fact that you watch the videos. I love the fact that you take notes. I love the fact that you're listening and you're hearing. But what I want more than that is for you to implement the things that you are learning so that you can gain the benefit of changing your metabolism, righting your disease process, reversing your diabetes, and ultimately go to that next level that we keep talking about. That's the goal. That's the function of all that we're doing. That's the reason for what we're doing. And then let someone know that there's a place where they can come and there are all these resources that are available to them for them now to get on the journey to right their disease, to right their metabolism, to improve their health, and for them to take the steps that's needed to live a limitless life. Right? Those are the things I want you to do. And then, of course, you heard Ashley earlier talk about my shirt. 91.4%. 91.4% of the things that we worry about never come true. 91.4. So we spend time, energy, looking at the past. We spend time, energy looking at the future. We spend time worrying about the things around us, and 91.4% never happen. So I want you to remember that it is not that things won't happen, but the majority of things that we worry about never happen. And you can make choices. Once again, our mental thought, our mental control center is influenced by the 91.4, because we worry about these. And so our brain takes that in, and our brain directs us in ways that it would not if we understood and if we were able to do and think about this. 91.4. Okay. So later this week we will be doing our check-ins, our fasting check-ins. Make sure you join us. We'll be back on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll be here fasting checking. on Saturday night at 9 o'clock, video from the vault. And then on Sunday morning at 6 a.m., This Week in Review. We'll be there, and then next week we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode MD Live as we continue our trek through the process of reversing diabetes and our limitless living. This mini-series that we're doing on the domains of health. Later this week on the 27th at 7 p.m., we'll have our community meetup, so make sure you do that. If you've not joined us, so that'll be in the membership area. We'll put that in there, and so that link will be for you to be able to get in there. Always, always, always excited to be here with you. Always excited to be in this space. Let me pop some of these comments up just before we go. Let's see, what do we got? So Cornelia says good night and thanks, Steve. Lightwork said another great session, Dr. Woode, with an E. Steve says about $29. Oh yeah, so the meter that he was talking about $29. Good night, says Gian. Night, Gian. Pamela says good night. Good night, everybody. Well, like I said, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And limitless living says that I'm not allowing anything from outside of me or anything from inside me to prevent me from doing what I need to do to be metabolically healthy and reverse my diabetes. I am presenting my best self, my best health, and my best plans for my life. I am breaking free of the obstacles, of the boundaries, of those things that constrain me to go to the next level. Good night, everybody. We'll see you at the next show.